Hey y'all, it's Gil Aaron, and I just watched that video from Peter Coffin on cancel culture, and I wanted to make a response, but it was actually a pretty cool video. I think you should watch it, so yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, maybe check it out. I'll put a link in the description. But basically, I want to respond to the video, but the video itself was fine. Um, and I like watching Peter Coffin's videos because uh, Peter's really good at pointing out patterns and stuff, so not so much the reactionary approach and all that kind of thing. So my response is more towards on almost like a more personal level, because I feel like what Peter was saying in the video um, is obviously showed me that Peter hasn't watched what I've been saying, because let's get into the whole community thing for a second. So the elephant in the room, I guess you could say, is contrapoints, and let's just get that out of the way. So I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it sort of felt like Peter Coffin was implying that contrapoints is a victim of cancel culture, and that kind of framing is really not helpful. Okay, so yes, there are definitely people who have been bad actors and who have done harassing type stuff and tried to effectively cancel contrapoints. But when you act as if that's the be all and end all of the problem of the whole discussion, it's pretty sketchy in my opinion, because there's a lot of people who've been speaking out and who aren't doing it in a cancel culture type way, who aren't doing it in any actually like personally offensive way. I mean, like, if Contra watched any of the videos I've made talking about gender, or even the really long 4.5 hour long one, which had low quality and all that, one of videos I made quite a while ago, but I went through 3 of ContraPoints videos and explained like how the way they are presenting themselves is harmful. And so it really feels like people want to move the goalpost all the time, and you really can never actually get people who have a lot of social capital, who are well known and stuff. You really can't get them to be critical of other people who are also well known. And it sort of is feeling to me like there's a bit of a blind spot for a lot of the creators like Peter Coffin, where they're kind of falling into the trap of the liberal idea of getting along, where it's more about civility, don't rock the boat. They want to keep up doing collabs, they want to keep a friendly environment, they don't want to cause divisions or rifts or whatever. And so if by chance one of the elites does end up not being that great, it's a huge problem, because they just all support, they all fall in line and protect ContraPoints. So that's basically what Peter Coffin's doing by sort of ignoring, he needs, oh, sorry, I don't know which pronouns to use, but Peter Coffin needs to use, he needs to reckon, or they, or whatever, sorry, struggling to remember. So anyway, Peter Coffin needs to understand the amount of social capital that they do possess themselves. So making a video and portraying the issue as if it is just cancel culture involved and not going into the deep issues is hopefully just a mistake. But let's just cover that quickly, okay? Because it's gotten to a point where, so I'm making this video. Yesterday, actually, I recorded a video about not making videos anymore. And I got really upset in the video as I was recording it about the complete lack of support I've had for the things I've been saying, as someone who I feel is a victim in this situation when it comes to ContraPoints. And so while it's great for Peter Coffin to go after like the dirtbag left or the guys complaining about work scolding, like the only person that really comes to mind for me there is like a Vosh type person, but like sure, go after them, and sure, that's a problem, but I think there's actually a bigger problem in people like Peter Coffin than those, because it's like the core of the sort of people who are perceived as being leftists and who have done a whole bunch of collabs together. And so, I agree that we shouldn't be calling things community when it's mediated through capitalist like platforms, which is exactly why in my previous video I was explaining about my ideas for how we can use Discord as a way to connect person to person and build community as people who know each other on there, rather than trying to do it through likes, comments, tweets, and stuff that isn't personal. And so that's another problem I had with Peter's video, is that implying that, oh, maybe it's not worth the time to invest in trying to get to community, and oh, maybe we won't get there, and it's like hedging the bets, and it's like trying to almost justify not trying. And it's like, okay, so we're just gonna keep making content because the content itself is the commodity, and that's pretty much all it can be. And so it's okay if all I do is make content. I don't need to build community. It's the capitalist platform. It's like I'm still going to eat meat because there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. That's the vibe I get, because it's like the whole point of no ethical consumption under capitalism is to adjust your consumption or stop doing capitalism. It's like recognizing the fact that you can't have ethical production under capitalism, and therefore consumption means start to produce stuff in a non-capitalist fashion. So if you're eating all of your food that you've grown off the land yourself and you haven't bought, that's ethical because it wasn't made within capitalism. So it's indicating, it's not indicating to never try, it's saying there is something to try. And yes, it's outside of capitalism. It's like something completely different. It's not going to be something that our platforms are catered for. And that's why it's going to take personal commitment to make happen. And so, things like I've said about the Discord and that, and there's so much you can do, and there's software I want to write, there's alternative platforms, and I shut down my Patreon because I honestly feel like I'm not making content worthy of support, and I was hoping to get support to actually do socialist software development. That's what my whole dream is to be doing, as well as writing my book. So the videos are self-expression, and that's why I kept doing it, and it is cool to get feedback and to have that conversation that I do have. But I want to make other platforms. I want to write a Discord bot that can connect different YouTube channels, Discord servers, or even other random Discord servers together, where you obviously the people who are running the servers need to sort of do a link with it, but you could really do some powerful stuff like have the bot keep track of links that are posted, and allow people to attach labels to links, and then allow people to search based on labels. So you could have, oh, I want to watch all the videos about this, and there's so much cool stuff you can do. And so it's like nobody wants to support me on that, or well, nobody really knows about me, so maybe people do, but anyway, it's like that whole vibe is something I feel like is something everybody knows we need, but nobody wants to put their money there and actually actually fund it actually happening. but I've gotten way sidetracked. But the whole point of that was to say, like, there's so much we can do to get to this community. And it's exactly like what Mexi said, is that we need critical connectivity, not critical mass. And so, the thing that is the most important, if you are in agreement with that concept, which I am, is that the most important thing is to make connection person to person. And that just making content and putting it out there is not good enough. And then let's get on to accountability, okay? So now, there's this whole thing Peter said about, well, accountability involves power structures, because you're saying to someone that, oh, these are the rules, and if you don't abide by them, then I'm going to do this or that to you. And it's like, how liberal are you framing this? Like, is Peter honestly going to be implying that that's, the way that leftists would do things? Because is that like some tanky influence coming in there or something? But like, that's just whack to me. Because like, if I am friends with someone, right, and I say to them like, maybe I hurt their feelings. I say something mean to them, and I shouldn't. And I can see that I've hurt their feelings, and I'm like, yo, don't just accept it. Don't just like ignore when, because I need to be a better person. I can change. Everybody can change. And so why not? Because then you cause less pain. So then I would say to that friend, like, please keep me accountable. If I am saying stuff like that, or if I am indicating that I'm still thinking those types of things, then like, let me know that, like, hey, watch it on your meanness there or whatever. Like, and that would be something that happens with my closest of friends, right? And I'm like psychologically allergic to authoritarianism. It's actually probably got something to do with my autism, and there is like a type of autism that makes people extremely averse to being controlled and stuff. So for me, like, I will never be that close to someone who's going to try to manipulate me, or try to coerce me, or make me feel guilty, or cancel me, or I will not. Like, as soon as I see someone who's got these types of sort of bullying or authoritarian, like underhanded or manipulative ways of socially interacting with me, I distance from them. And so, to say that, like, community, to say that, sorry, accountability is a power structure, that is either ignorance to like the Overton window of real social relationships isn't there, or for some reason it's being ignored. And it's like, we need to be friends with each other, right? Comrade is supposed to be implying like a camaraderie of people getting along, right? And so that's why friendship is so important. You got to have that level of vulnerability and openness with other humans. So then Peter was saying, okay, but maybe, you might get that in like your small friend groups and whatever, but that's not really good enough, because the thing is, like, what if your whole friend group, like I was saying earlier, like how all the popular YouTubers are never actually willing to stand up to one of their own being problematic. So what if that friend group you have, because your friend group will almost be biased by your popularity in a way, because, like Peter doesn't watch my videos, probably doesn't give a shit about me, but sure as hell I'm going to bet he watches every ContraPoints video. So, like, or at least keeps up with what's in it, like, because I don't care. But like, so it's like that's a self-selection of popularity influencing that inner circle. And so if you're going to say that's the only way you're going to allow your accountability to happen, then if harm happens that none of the people in your inner circle are willing to call out, then that harm's basically going unchecked. It's like a loose cannon. And at this point, honestly, ContraPoints is a loose cannon, and the rest of the crew of the popular YouTubers are basically now hopping on the civility wagon of, oh, cancel culture is so bad, because there is a cancel culture problem, but it's not really a huge problem on the left, to be honest. And that's why I say it's good to watch Peter's videos, because he did mention that those paradigms need to drop, but he reinforced those paradigms by getting that like passionate about talking about them for so long and implying that the emotion conveys that there's like this huge problem, you know? Whereas the huger problem, in my opinion, is this lack of accountability, or this accountability being reserved for these small groups that don't actually challenge each other. And so the issue with why I'm making this video, and it's because we can't just allow ContraPoints to basically get a free pass now. Like, is that what they are honestly expecting, these popular YouTubers? And it's like, I would stop making videos, because I'm not getting anything out of YouTube at the moment. Like, just because I don't like making things as an individual, I want to be part of a community. And that's why I was so stoked to do that interview with, what's it? Mystic Mutterings, I think. But then, like, the first recording, the audio died. It was so bad. The second one, half the audio was bad. I re-recorded my end. Fortunately, the end was fine. Then, computer got stolen, and so did my phone, and I lost a lot of footage, like maybe 10 videos worth, and the interview. And now we got to do a third one, but like, that was cool. Like, I was like, I'm feeling interviews, because like, that's, feels more connected and personal, and that's, like, I know there might be value in putting leftist content out there, and there's some great YouTubers who basically do that, and if that is what you want to do, great. But like, I feel like that's not really, those people don't do things like collab with Contra. They don't do things like try to protect her from the call outs and stuff. Like, if you just stick to making your good content, like, without commenting on YouTube drama and stuff, then you do your thing. But like, Peter is embedding himself in this collection of creators and stuff on the left by bringing this up, as I do way more than they do. But like, that's why when someone's being harmful, and I'm really sorry if you are somebody who hasn't been explained to you properly, and maybe you're struggling to understand how gender works and stuff. But like, think of a rainbow, and now pick two random colors, any two random colors in the rainbow, whatever they may be. I'm just going to pick red and yellow. Okay, now what if I told you those were not, like, if you didn't pick those, your own colors in your mind, those are actually the binary of colors in the rainbow. Did you know that? Yeah, they're the binary. The other colors are non-binary, but red and yellow, those are the binary colors, or the ones you thought of. Those are the binary colors. Makes sense, doesn't it? Because like, it doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. I'm sorry. Somebody explain this to me, please, because that's the issue we're dealing with here, and that's what ContraPoints is being asked to self-crit. There's like a barking dog that's really distracting the hell out of me now, and I really want to finish the video, but I don't think it's coming through, so I'm just going to keep going. Fudge steaks. Like, I'm a cat person, and I've got a kitten and it's sleeping. The dog's barking really gets my sensory overload issues going. So anyway, the dog stopped. Cool. So that's the issue here, is that the gender cannot be binary. Calling it gender binary is, the only time gender is binary is within the conception of gender that is the cis heteronormative patriarchal conception of gender. The scientific and LGBTQ friendly version and conception of gender does not say that man and woman are a default. It does not say those are they're normal genders and the rest are, you know, weird genders. It doesn't. That's what does that is the cis-hetero patriarchal normative colonial in many senses theory of gender. Now, that's why when we talk about man and woman is queer people, we don't call it binary because we're leaving that old model behind. So when you call it binary, you are calling back the specter of that old model and implying man and woman are the defaults. And do you know why that's a problem? It's because it's reinforcing the bioessentialist narrative that genitals and XY chromosomes are the definition of gender. All our bodies and every part of your body is intersex. It's gender neutral, like just doesn't, it's not a binary, it's way more complicated. Like watch my videos if you actually care. But I'm telling you it's not binary, okay? There's science, I'll put as many links until people start taking me seriously. But like, seriously, gender and biology isn't binary, but it's easier to think of biology as binary because of, you know, the fact that there is a commonality of particular genitals. But like, it's really not, the people who don't match the norm are really a lot more than you think. And there's a lot of surgery that goes on to conform people without their consent. So human beings are actually not really that idea of there being two norms in the biology sense anyway. But when you call gender binary, you're calling the specter of that normativity. And that's reinforcing the idea that biology determines gender, and that leads to things like calling a beard masculine, which is bullshit. This is people will like swear on their grave if like, don't you dare misgender that Wookiee, you know, or that cat or bear or something that has hair over its whole body. And it comes to humans and they're like, if you have a little bit of fuzz here, wham, different gender. It's ridiculous. And then they'll literally look right next to you at an animal that's completely covered in fur, or look at a Wookiee on TV, which is a sentient being, completely covered in fur, and gender them correctly, okay? Because it's transphobia that causes people to, like, thinking of humans along the binary thing, like that conception is transphobic. It goes against the way humanity exists. So that's why, you know, we can't just drop the issue. We can't just be like, oh, boo-hoo, Contra got cancelled and that's a problem and leave Contra alone. Like, no, I haven't seen legit self-crit there. Is Contra still identifying as binary? Because until she stops identifying as binary, there's no real information of gender, how it exists, actually being perceived, you know? So now, when I say that, I'm not saying that she's not 100% a woman, because if that's how she feels, then that's what is real. You are the only one who knows your gender. It exists in your psychology, in your brain, in your personality. We relate through social constructs, but the substance of it and the things that inform your relations exist in your neurons and stuff. And so we're all unique in that sense, way more unique than your fingerprints ever could be. And so that's why to call that kind of thing, like, don't like scan me or whatever, but like, do I have a binary fingerprint here? We need to start thinking about things properly and not just going with these fables and myths and things we were taught from parents, from church, from school, from movies, and these fantasies we have, and it's harming people and it must go. And when we can't just be like trying to silence those who call it out or ignore them. And I've been ignored, but you know, I'm okay with that, because like, not, don't let it be said that, nobody tried, because I really would like it if these people would really start to self-crit and actually take the science seriously, because it's literally like, it's like how small, how marginalized and how small of a percentage of the population identify as trans. Now, of those, how many of them actually understand gender well enough to know, that they can be a man and woman and not binary at the same time, or also not a man or a woman. Like, that's a much even smaller percentage than those who are trans, and then they are even further marginalized, and they are marginalized by like the cisnormative friendly trans people, the contrapoints who passing as a transphobic concept. Did you know that? And so those there's people who can't transition, and there's people who don't want to, and society should still be able to embrace them as their gender and not treat them weirdly and give them weird looks. And they shouldn't feel like they're constantly being othered, and like, it's just not okay. And it's not going to change until the way we talk changes, and that means we need to let go of problematic language. And binary, when it comes to gender, is a transphobic slur. Now, if you are somebody who identifies as a man or a woman, do that. I'm not saying you need to say your gender is non-binary as its own contained thing. You can call it not binary, unbinary, or if it's you can call it non-binary. People do call a gender that is not man or woman. It could be a mixture of the two, or it could be something separate. Those arguably are even two of their own separate genders, but like, the people do call that non-binary, but the whole thing is also non-binary. Man and woman are also non-binary. They just non-binary man, non-binary woman, and non-binary non-binary. If you wanted to be, say, add non-binary onto the non-binary only thing. So anyway, this language is hard. We gotta move it, and so I feel like I'm giving a simple explanation of gender, and way simpler than anything else I've heard. And and it's the only one really I've found that's correlating with the science. So I'm gonna keep on with that. And that's why people like Peter Coffin need to actually maybe take a step back and really think about this whole thing of accountability, and not try to imply that it has to be power related, because it should be peer-to-peer, non-hierarchical, non-power. It should be, hey, I'm going to freely associate with you, and you're going to freely associate with me. And if you start being problematic as part of our free association, and in a spirit of mutual aid, I will call out your problematic behavior, and I would like you to do that for me too. And that way we can make sure that we are not going to end up harming others. And people who have an audience, have a platform, or have like a lot of reach, that becomes much more, the more popular, the more important it is for you to have that accountability, and not just with an inner group that will never challenge you, but you also need to be accountable to randos on Twitter, for example. And I'm not saying every time someone criticizes you, take it seriously. And I'm not saying, the cyberbullies are right. But what I'm saying is, if there's somebody who is being constructive with their criticism, if there's somebody who, say, makes a 4.5 hour long video going in detail with step-by-step of examples of why there's problematic stuff and how it adds up to problematic patterns, and how the patterns are based in problematic conceptions and that kind of stuff. If someone goes through all of that effort, and if they tweet that to you, that's not cancel culture. You've got to be accountable to that kind of thing too. You've got to be accountable to to reasonable constructive criticism, whoever it comes from. Because if somebody's and being autistic, and someone who's a person of color even more so, you could be 4, 5, 6 layers of marginalization deep. Your inner circle may not have anyone like that in it ever, but do you still want to just harm those people and not ever care? No. And that's why, sure, there were cancel culture vibes with Contra, but there was also a lot of people being constructive about it, or just saying she's going too far, or it's not good. Just calling out in a regular, non-cancelly, but more this look. Are we supposed to avert our gaze now? I don't understand. Like, if there's a loose cannon and it's still firing shots everywhere, do we just need to like close our eyes and please don't hit me, please don't hit me? Oh, good, it hit the non-binary people again. Like, what the hell? And that's why, if you want to talk about, the left getting beyond these paradigms and getting beyond cancel culture, it's not going to happen by tone policing, civility, political correctness, and leave Contra alone, and like, I'm only accountable to people outside of the broader community because the capitalist platforms, like, no, it comes through taking things seriously. And go, like I said, stay out of the YouTube drama. Don't talk about the left. Don't talk about that. Just make your good content where you say, oh, look at this bad thing capitalists doing, or oh, this movie is capitalist like this, or can you spot the pattern in capitalism here? Don't get into the whole community thing if you aren't going to take it seriously, and actually be open to criticism, and like, whoever it comes from. And so yeah, that's basically why I wanted to respond, because I was watching the video, and I felt a little bit angry and upset, because it's like, it's so frustrating, and it is literally what Peter was saying about how attention and stuff is currency. It's so frustrating when you do you jump through all the hoops that people are saying, like, be constructive and don't like personally attack people, and don't like, you can jump through as many hoops as you want, but unless like, you get the 4-leaf clover and the end of the end of the rainbow, you find your pot of gold, and the stars align, and you win the lottery, and and you just have the most best day in your life, and then a big YouTuber is like, oh, I'm going to show goodwill to this person, and and the magic happens, and you see some people go from like, like, having not that many followers or subscribers to having a whole lot, because the particular big YouTuber decided that they were going to get behind them. And that's the lottery that I was talking about in my previous videos, and that's not, that's not the kind of platform we should care about. And so I mean, resign yourself to making just commodities if you want, but then please shut up about the, like, other people in the community, and especially the ones who are calling out problematic behavior, and don't try and defend the ones being called out. Because then, if you're going to get involved, then you got to take it seriously, and you got to self-crit too, because you might also have problematic ideas and stuff. And if we can get beyond cancel culture vibes, it will be because we've become intolerant to people just continuing to harm others and not self-crit. That's how we get past it, because it's only when people are actually taking constructive criticism and correcting that we can stop harming each other enough to get close enough to each other to be a community. Because when you're punching everywhere all the time, like by mistake, it's like, yo, don't punch, I'm standing here, yo, don't punch. And like, that's not community. So that's why you got to care about who you're hurting, and rein it in. Okay? And we got to stand up for people who are not conforming to a binary conception. We got to stop putting binary in our language. We got to move beyond that because it's harming. And, so what's going to end up happening is the people who are actually willing to self-crit are going to eventually find each other and form a community, and you're not going to be a part of it. And you're not going to want to be a part of it because you're going to have been, avoiding self-critting for so long that you're going to fall behind a lot because things are progressive. And that's why you're going to always have to continue to be self-critical. Because, like maybe a couple of years ago, calling yourself binary gendered was fine, but we're moving on now. We need to get word out. We don't have forever to wait. People are dying. Like, kids are getting gendered incorrectly. Like, fortunately, sometimes the cis parents screw up the gender reveal and make it look bad because it is bad and it's child abuse and that's happening. And today, I bet you right now, a doctor is writing a gender on a form right now, and that child is being abused. Okay, because the child should be given the opportunity to decide for itself what gender to be, and that's what the science says. So we gotta get on that train. We gotta stop resisting. Okay, it's like flat Earth vibes. It's like that you don't wait until you look that ridiculous, and it's starting to look pretty ridiculous, to be honest. Anyway, this is a really long video, but whatevs. I'm probably not posting again for a while anyway. So yeah, bye.